The email arrived at 4:47 p.m. on a Thursday, just as I was putting the finishing touches on my presentation for tomorrow's board meeting. The subject line read, "Immediate termination Fürschen Fixuffing the Fate of Fürschen Fib." My coffee grew cold as I read the single paragraph that destroyed what I thought was my carefully planned future. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Due to budget constraints and restructuring needs, your position has been eliminated effective immediately. Please pack your personal belongings and surrender your access card to security. Your final paycheck will be processed within 2 weeks. No explanation. No mention of the promotion to senior marketing director that had been promised to me just yesterday. No acknowledgement of the Hartwell Industries campaign I'd been leading for 6 months, the one that was supposed to launch next week with my name as the credited strategist. I stared at the screen, waiting for my hands to shake or my vision to blur, but nothing happened. The only thing that changed was a slight narrowing of my eyes as I saved the email to a very special folder on my personal cloud drive. My name is Sarah Chen, and at 34 I had just received the most calculated betrayal of my career. But while Rachel was probably celebrating in her corner office, imagining me crying over my lost promotion, I was calmly closing my laptop and reaching for the cardboard box I kept in my bottom desk drawer. Some people might call it paranoia. I preferred to call it preparation. The signs had been accumulating for months, small inconsistencies that most people would dismiss as workplace politics. The way Rachel had started excluding me from certain client calls, claiming they were preliminary discussions that didn't require my input. The sudden appearance of Jessica Wong, a 26-year-old MBA graduate who Rachel had hired as a marketing coordinator, despite our department being over budget. The way Rachel's assistant had started booking the conference room for private strategy sessions that never appeared on any official calendar. 2 months ago, I'd started documenting everything. Every email where Rachel took credit for my ideas, every client meeting where she presented my research as her own, every instance where she'd promised me opportunities that mysteriously vanished. The Hartwell Industries campaign had been my breaking point. I'd spent weeks developing the concept, conducting market research, building relationships with their executive team. When Rachel suddenly announced she'd be presenting our collaborative effort to the board, with her name listed as primary strategist, I knew exactly what was coming. That's when I'd made some phone calls. Strategic ones. The kind that a smart professional makes when they sense their career is about to be sabotaged by someone who sees them as a threat rather than an asset. I packed my personal items methodically while my coworkers pretended not to stare. The small succulent from my windowsill, the coffee mug my nephew had made in art class, the framed photo of my parents at their restaurant's grand opening. Everything else belonged to Pinnacle Marketing Solutions, including the detailed project files that Rachel thought she now controlled exclusively. What she didn't know was that I'd been maintaining my own comprehensive records, stored safely beyond her reach. "Sarah, I'm so sorry," whispered Kelly from the neighboring cubicle. "This is insane. Everyone knows you were getting that promotion." I smiled at Kelly, a genuine expression that seemed to confuse her. "Thanks, Kel. Don't worry about me. I have a feeling things are going to work out just fine." My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Marcus, who worked in the IT department. "Heard what happened. Are you okay?" I typed back quickly, "Never better. Coffee tomorrow at 9. Security escorted me to the elevator with all the ceremony of a criminal perp walk, but I kept my shoulders straight and my expression calm. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of Rachel watching from her office window, her arms crossed and a satisfied smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. She thought she'd eliminated her biggest competition for the regional director position that was opening up in 3 months. What she'd actually done was remove the one person who'd been quietly preventing her from making the biggest mistake of her career. The evening news played in the background as I sat in my apartment, reviewing the contents of my Rachel insurance folder. 3 months of documented instances where she'd claimed credit for my work, including screenshots of original emails with timestamps showing my ideas, submitted hours or days before her brilliant contributions. Financial projections I'd calculated that she'd presented as her own analysis. Client communications, where she deliberately excluded me from follow-up meetings after I'd established the initial relationships. Most interesting was the paper trail surrounding the Hartwell Industries contract. Rachel had no idea that James Hartwell, their CEO, was my former colleague from my previous job at Sterling Communications. She didn't know that he'd specifically requested to work with me when his company decided to switch agencies. She certainly didn't know that our contract included a clause requiring my personal involvement as lead strategist, a detail I'd negotiated privately and never mentioned to anyone at Pinnacle. My laptop chimed with an incoming email from James Hartwell himself. "Sarah, I just heard some disturbing news about your employment status. Can we talk first thing tomorrow morning? There are some contractual matters we need to discuss." I smiled as I typed my response. "Of course, James. I have some insights about the campaign that I think you'll find very interesting." Another message appeared in my inbox, this one from David Kim, Pinnacle's CEO. The subject line read, "Urgent client concern." His message was brief but telling: "Need to speak with you immediately regarding Hartwell Industries. They're threatening to terminate their contract. Can you come in tomorrow morning?" I forwarded both messages to my personal account before responding to David. "I'm no longer employed by Pinnacle as of today, per Rachel Martinez's decision. I suggest you speak with her about client relations. I'll be happy to discuss consulting rates if you'd like my professional input." The beauty of corporate contracts is that most managers never read the fine print. Rachel had been so focused on claiming credit for landing the Hartwell account that she'd never bothered to understand the specific terms I'd negotiated. The contract clearly stated that any change in lead personnel required client approval and a 30-day transition period. By terminating me without consulting Hartwell Industries, she'd inadvertently triggered a breach clause that allowed them to exit the agreement without penalty. My phone rang at exactly 8 a.m. the next morning. David Kim's name appeared on the screen, and I let it go to voicemail. The message was predictably frantic. "Sarah, we need to talk immediately. Hartwell is threatening to pull their account unless you personally remain on the project. Rachel says she fired you yesterday."
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
"I had no idea. Please call me back." I was already dressed in my best business suit, ready for my breakfast meeting with James Hartwell at the Meridian Hotel downtown. Rachel might have thought she'd eliminated her competition, but she'd actually handed me the perfect opportunity to demonstrate exactly why clients valued my expertise over her office politics. The hotel restaurant was busy with the usual crowd of business professionals starting their day. James Hartwell stood to greet me, his expression a mixture of concern and curiosity. We'd worked together for 2 years at Sterling, and he'd always appreciated my direct communication style. "Sarah, what exactly is happening over at Pinnacle? I got a call yesterday from someone named Jessica Wong claiming she was taking over the Hartwell account. When I asked to speak with you, she told me you were no longer with the company." I pulled out my tablet and opened a folder labeled Hartwell Industries Complete Project History. "James, I need to show you something. This is the complete development timeline for your campaign, including all original concepts, research data, and strategic recommendations. You'll notice that every major element was developed and submitted by me personally." His expression grew increasingly serious as he scrolled through the documented evidence. These emails show ideas being submitted weeks before the presentations Rachel gave to our board. And this financial analysis, I specifically complimented her on this during our last meeting. Rachel has been systematically taking credit for my work for months. Yesterday she decided to eliminate the source rather than continue sharing recognition. What she didn't consider was how this would affect client relationships and contractual obligations. James set down the tablet and leaned back in his chair. "The contract we signed specifically names you as lead strategist. That wasn't an accident, was it? I've learned to protect my professional interests, especially when working with managers who see collaboration as a zero-sum game." The contract includes several clauses that Rachel never bothered to review. My phone buzzed with another call from David Kim. I declined it and continued my conversation with James. "I'm now available for independent consulting. If you'd like to continue working with the original strategist for your campaign, we can discuss new arrangements that don't involve Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. What about the work that's already been done? We've invested significant time and money in this campaign development. I smiled and opened another folder on my tablet. All original concepts, research data, and strategic frameworks were developed by me personally. The intellectual property belongs to the strategist who created it, not the company that fired her. I have comprehensive documentation proving my ownership of every major element. James laughed, a sound that was equal parts admiration and disbelief. You really had this planned out. I had contingencies planned. There's a difference between paranoia and professional protection. Rachel made her choice without understanding the consequences. We spent the next hour discussing the transition to an independent consulting arrangement. James was eager to continue working with me directly, especially after seeing the documented evidence of my comprehensive involvement in every aspect of the campaign. The financial terms we negotiated were significantly more favorable than my previous salary, with additional bonuses tied to campaign performance metrics. As I left the hotel, my phone showed 7 missed calls from David Kim and 3 from Rachel Martinez. I returned David's call first. "Sarah, thank God you called back. We have a serious situation here. Hartwell Industries is threatening to terminate their contract and demand a full refund unless you return to manage their account. Rachel says you were terminated for performance issues, but James Hartwell specifically requested to speak with you about contractual violations." I paused at a coffee shop window, watching the morning rush hour crowd hurry past. "David, I think there might be some confusion about the sequence of events. I wasn't terminated for performance issues. Rachel eliminated my position one day before my scheduled promotion, without consulting the clients I'd been managing or reviewing the contractual obligations that required my continued involvement." "What are you talking about? What contractual obligations?" "The Hartwell Industries contract includes specific language requiring client approval for any changes in lead personnel. By terminating me without their consent, Pinnacle has breached the agreement. James Hartwell is well within his rights to cancel the contract and pursue alternative arrangements." The silence on David's end stretched for nearly 30 seconds. "Are you saying this termination could cost us the Hartwell account entirely?" "I'm saying that professional decisions have professional consequences. I've already had productive discussions with James about transitioning to an independent consulting arrangement that better serves his company's needs." "Wait, you're starting your own consulting business?" "As of this morning, yes. Chen Strategic Solutions will be handling the Hartwell Industries campaign under new terms that reflect the actual value of specialized expertise." I could practically hear David's blood pressure rising through the phone. "Sarah, we need to discuss this in person. Can you come in this afternoon? I'm sure we can work something out. I'm no longer an employee of Pinnacle Marketing Solutions, David. If you'd like to discuss consulting arrangements or transition planning, my standard rate is $200 per hour with a 4-hour minimum." Another long pause. $200 per hour. That's more than your old salary. Market rates for independent strategic consulting are typically higher than employee salaries. Supply and demand economics. You're welcome to check with other consultants if you'd like to compare pricing. My phone immediately buzzed with an incoming call from Rachel. I declined it and continued talking to David. I should mention that I've received several inquiries from other companies interested in strategic consulting services. The Hartwell campaign has generated quite a bit of industry attention. This wasn't entirely true yet, but it would be soon. I'd already reached out to 3 former colleagues who'd moved to competing agencies. Word travels fast in the marketing industry, especially when it involves a successful strategist becoming available for independent work. "Sarah, I think we need to have a serious conversation about what happened yesterday. Rachel may have acted hastily without understanding all the implications." "I appreciate the call, David, but my focus now is on serving my client's best interests through Chen Strategic Solutions. If Pinnacle would like to discuss transition planning or consulting arrangements, I'm available for meetings at standard rates." After ending the call, I walked to a nearby Starbucks and ordered my usual coffee. The morning had been more productive than I'd anticipated. By lunchtime, I'd have a signed consulting contract with Hartwell Industries worth more than my annual salary at Pinnacle. The afternoon would bring conversations with other potential clients who'd been impressed by my work but frustrated by Rachel's management style. My phone buzzed with a text message from Marcus in IT. "Holy crap, what did you do?" Rachel is freaking out in David's office. She's yelling about client poaching and corporate espionage. Security is reviewing her computer access logs. I typed back, "Just conducting normal business development activities." "How's the weather in the office today?" "Storm clouds gathering over the management floor." Word is spreading that Hartwell might cancel their contract. Kelly says Rachel was asking about your client contact lists and project files. That was interesting. Rachel was apparently just now realizing that firing the lead strategist might complicate client relationships. I wondered if she'd bothered to read the Hartwell contract yet, or if she was still operating under the assumption that all client relationships belonged to the company rather than the individual professionals who developed them. Another text from Marcus. "David just called an emergency meeting with all department heads. The conference room is packed. Rachel looks like she's about to throw up." I settled into a comfortable chair by the window and opened my laptop. Time to start building the foundation for Chen's strategic solutions. The business registration could be completed online within a few hours. The website framework I'd been quietly developing for months just needed content updates and final touches. The client contracts I'd been reviewing as educational materials suddenly became very practical resources. My phone rang again, this time showing Rachel's direct number. I decided to answer. "Rachel, how can I help you?" "Sarah, we need to talk immediately. There seems to be some confusion about the Hartwell Industries situation." Her voice was tight with controlled panic, a tone I'd never heard from her before. Gone was the confident superiority she'd displayed yesterday during my termination. "I'm not sure what's confusing about it. You terminated my employment yesterday. James Hartwell has decided to transition to independent consulting arrangements rather than work with Pinnacle's new team structure. You can't just steal our clients because you're upset about a personnel decision." I almost laughed at the accusation. "Rachel, I haven't stolen anything. I've been transparent with James about my employment status and professional capabilities. He's making business decisions based on his company's needs and contractual obligations." "What contractual obligations?" "The contract is between Pinnacle and Hartwell Industries." "Did you actually read the contract before deciding to terminate the lead strategist? Because there are some specific clauses about personnel changes and client approval requirements that might be relevant to this situation." The silence on her end told me everything I needed to know. Rachel had been so focused on eliminating her perceived competition that she'd never bothered to understand the legal and contractual implications of her decision. "Sarah, I think we can work this out. Maybe there was some miscommunication about your employment status. We could discuss bringing you back in a consulting capacity while we sort through this transition. At what rate? We could probably match your previous salary on a contract basis." I smiled watching pedestrians hurry past the coffee shop window. "Rachel, my consulting rate is $200 per hour. The Hartwell Industries project would require approximately 20 hours per week for the next 3 months, plus additional time for campaign launch and performance analysis. $200 per hour. That's ridiculous. That's market rate for senior-level strategic consulting. You're welcome to check with other independent consultants if you'd like to verify pricing standards." Her voice rose slightly, the professional veneer starting to crack. "This is extortion. You're trying to hold the Hartwell account hostage because you're bitter about losing your job." "Rachel, I'm running a business based on professional relationships and demonstrated expertise. James Hartwell has chosen to continue working with the strategist who developed his campaign rather than transition to new personnel. That's his decision as a client. But you're deliberately undermining Pinnacle's relationship with Hartwell. I'm providing consulting services to a client who values my expertise. The fact that this creates challenges for your management decisions isn't my responsibility." Another long pause. I could practically hear her calculating the financial implications of losing the Hartwell account versus agreeing to my consulting rates. "What if we brought you back as a full-time employee? We could discuss the promotion that was supposed to happen. I'm no longer interested in employment with Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. I've discovered that independent consulting offers better opportunities for professional growth and client service." "Sarah, you're making a mistake. The marketing industry is smaller than you think. Word gets around about people who cause problems for their former employers. There it was. The threat I'd been expecting. Rachel was moving from negotiation to intimidation, which told me she was getting desperate. You're absolutely right that word gets around in this industry. In fact, I'm looking forward to letting people know about my positive experience transitioning to independent consulting. Several former colleagues have already expressed interest in similar career moves. What's that supposed to mean? It means that talented professionals are always interested in opportunities that offer better compensation and professional recognition. Market dynamics tend to favor expertise over office politics. I ended the call and immediately forwarded the recording to my personal email account. Some states require two-party consent for recording phone conversations, but this one only required one-party consent. Rachel's threats and attempts at manipulation were now documented for future reference. My laptop chimed with a new email from James Hartwell's assistant, confirming our afternoon meeting to finalize the consulting agreement. The subject line made me smile: contract signing Chen Strategic Solutions. By 2 p.m. I had a signed consulting contract worth $60,000 for the next 3 months, with performance bonuses that could double that amount if the Hartwell campaign exceeded its benchmarks. The contract also included a clause for additional projects and potential expansion into other Hartwell Industries markets. Marcus sent another update. Rachel got called into David's office again. She came out looking like someone died. Then she went to HR and stayed there for an hour. Kelly thinks she might be getting fired. The irony was delicious. Rachel had eliminated my position to claim credit for my work, but instead she'd created a situation where the company might lose both the client and the manager. I replied to Marcus, "Karma has excellent timing sometimes." My phone buzzed with a call from David Kim again. This time I decided to answer. "David, good afternoon. How can I help you?" "Sarah, I need to understand exactly what happened yesterday and this morning. Rachel is telling me one story, but the client situation suggests something different. I'm happy to clarify the timeline. Yesterday at 4:47 p.m., Rachel sent me a termination email citing budget constraints and restructuring needs. This morning, James Hartwell contacted me about contractual concerns regarding personnel changes on his account. We discussed transition options and he decided to move forward with independent consulting arrangements. Is it true that the Hartwell contract requires your specific involvement? The contract includes language about lead personnel changes requiring client approval and transition periods. I negotiated those terms to protect both the client relationship and the project continuity. And Rachel didn't know about these contractual details. Apparently not, since she terminated the lead strategist without consulting the client or reviewing the contractual obligations. David sighed heavily. "Sarah, what would it take to bring you back and resolve this situation with Hartwell?" "I'm not interested in returning as an employee, David. However, Chen Strategic Solutions is available for consulting projects at standard market rates. The Hartwell Industries engagement is already finalized, but I'm open to discussing other potential collaborations. What about a management position? We're restructuring the department anyway. You could take over Rachel's responsibilities." That was interesting. Apparently Rachel's attempt to eliminate her competition had backfired spectacularly. Not only had she lost the Hartwell account, but now her own position was in jeopardy. I appreciate the offer, but I've decided that independent consulting offers better opportunities for professional growth and client service. Besides, I already have inquiries from several other companies interested in strategic marketing services. This was becoming true as word spread through my professional network. 2 former colleagues had already reached out about potential consulting opportunities, and I expected more inquiries as news of my independence spread. "Sarah, I have to ask this directly. Are you planning to compete with Pinnacle for other clients?" "I'm planning to provide strategic marketing consulting services to companies that value expertise and professional relationships. If that creates competitive pressure for Pinnacle, perhaps that indicates a need for better client service and employee retention strategies." After ending the call, I spent the afternoon setting up the operational framework for Chen Strategic Solutions. Business banking account, professional liability insurance, contract templates, invoicing systems. The administrative work I'd been researching for months as career development suddenly became the foundation for my new business. By 5 p.m., I had received 3 more inquiries about consulting services. 2 came from former clients who'd worked with me at Pinnacle but were interested in more direct access to strategic planning expertise. The 3rd came from a competitor who'd been trying to recruit me for months but was now interested in project-based collaboration instead of full-time employment. Marcus sent a final update of the day. Rachel cleaned out her office around 4 p.m. Security escorted her out just like they did with you yesterday. Word is she got fired for poor judgment regarding client relationships and personnel management. David is now personally managing the transition for your former accounts. I poured a glass of wine and sat on my apartment balcony reviewing the day's accomplishments. 24 hours ago, I'd been a senior marketing strategist worried about office politics and career advancement. Now I was the CEO of my own consulting company with a signed contract worth more than my previous annual salary. Rachel had intended to eliminate her competition and claim credit for my work. Instead, she'd forced me into a career transition that offered better compensation, professional independence, and direct client relationships. Her attempt to sabotage my promotion had actually promoted me to business owner. My phone buzzed with a text from Kelly. Heard about Rachel getting fired. Also heard you started your own company. Congratulations. Can we grab coffee this week? I might be interested in some career advice. I smiled as I typed my response. Coffee sounds great. Turns out getting fired can be the best thing that happens to your career, if you're prepared for the opportunity. The evening sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, a perfect backdrop for reflecting on the day's events. Tomorrow I would begin the real work of building Chen's Strategic Solutions into the kind of company I'd always wanted to work for. The kind that valued expertise over politics, results over relationships, and client service over internal competition. Rachel had fired me thinking she was eliminating a threat to her advancement. What she'd actually done was eliminate the last reason I had to stay in a corporate environment that didn't fully appreciate my capabilities. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you professionally turns out to be exactly what you needed to reach the next level of success. My laptop chimed with one final email of the day. This one from James Hartwell. Sarah, thank you for a productive day. I'm excited about our new working relationship and confident that Chen's Strategic Solutions will deliver even better results than we originally anticipated. Looking forward to tomorrow's strategy session. I raised my wine glass in a silent toast to Rachel Martinez wherever she was spending her first evening as an unemployed manager. Her worst decision had become my best opportunity, and tomorrow I would begin proving that sometimes revenge really is a dish best served with professional excellence and strategic planning. The first day of Chen's Strategic Solutions was complete, and it had exceeded every expectation I'd had when I started documenting Rachel's behavior months ago. Sometimes the best preparation for betrayal is simply being ready to succeed on your own terms. 6 months after Rachel's spectacular downfall, Chen's Strategic Solutions had grown beyond my wildest expectations. What started as a single consulting contract with Hartwell Industries had expanded into a boutique agency with 8 major clients and a waiting list of companies seeking strategic marketing expertise. The irony wasn't lost on me that while Rachel struggled to find new employment, the subordinate she'd tried to eliminate was now running a more successful operation than the department she'd once managed. The transformation had been swift and decisive. Word travels fast in the marketing industry, especially when it involves a respected strategist going independent after corporate betrayal. Within 2 months, I'd hired 2 junior consultants and moved operations from my apartment to a sleek downtown office space. The business cards read Sarah Chen, founder and CEO, instead of senior marketing strategist, reporting to Rachel Martinez. My former colleagues at Pinnacle had become an unexpected source of intelligence about the company's ongoing struggles. David Kim had attempted to rebuild the marketing department 3 times, each effort hampered by the reputation damage from the Hartwell debacle. Clients had started questioning Pinnacle's stability and management competence. The company that had once dismissed my departure as a minor personnel adjustment was now dealing with the exodus of both talent and accounts. Kelly had been the first to make the jump, joining Chen's Strategic Solutions as my Director of Client Relations after watching Pinnacle's new management fumble 2 major presentations. Her inside knowledge of ongoing client frustrations had been invaluable for business development. Marcus from IT had followed 6 weeks later, bringing his technical expertise and, more importantly, his detailed understanding of which Pinnacle clients were most dissatisfied with their current service levels. The beauty of building a business from experienced professionals was that we understood exactly what frustrated clients about traditional agency relationships. Chen Strategic Solutions operated on principles of transparency, direct communication, and results-focused deliverables. We didn't waste time on internal politics because there weren't enough layers of management to create them. Every team member had direct client contact and clear accountability for project outcomes. Rachel's attempts to rebuild her career had been less successful. Through industry connections, I'd learned about her struggles to explain the Hartwell Industries situation during job interviews. How do you describe losing a major client because you fired the lead strategist without understanding contractual obligations? How do you justify terminating someone the day before their promotion for budget reasons when the real motivation was clearly personal insecurity? Her LinkedIn profile had gone through several iterations, each one trying to reframe her departure from Pinnacle in more positive terms. First, she claimed to be pursuing new opportunities in strategic leadership. Then it became consulting on organizational transformation initiatives. Currently, it read exploring innovative approaches to marketing management, which I interpreted as still unemployed after 6 months of rejection letters. The most satisfying development had been watching former Pinnacle clients seek out Chen Strategic Solutions specifically because of our reputation for expertise over politics. 3 companies had approached us directly after hearing about our client-focused approach and proven results. Each new contract represented validation that professional competence ultimately trumps corporate maneuvering. James Hartwell had become more than a client during those months, he'd become an advocate and reference for other potential customers. His campaign had exceeded performance benchmarks by 40%, generating results that made industry publications take notice. The case study we'd published together had been downloaded over 5,000 times and shared across multiple marketing forums. Rachel's name appeared nowhere in the documentation, which accurately reflected her actual contribution to the project's success. David Kim had called twice attempting to negotiate some form of partnership or acquisition of Chen Strategic Solutions. The conversations had been professionally cordial but ultimately pointless. Why would I sell a thriving independent business to return to the corporate environment that had undervalued my contributions? The financial terms he'd suggested were laughable compared to our current profit margins and growth trajectory. My parents had attended the official launch party for our new office space, their pride evident as they toured the facilities I'd built from nothing in less than a year. The restaurant business had taught them about resilience and customer service, values that translated perfectly to professional consulting. They understood that sometimes the best response to disrespect is simply proving your worth through undeniable success. The final vindication had come through an unexpected source. An executive recruiter contacted me about a regional director position at a major advertising firm, the same level of promotion that Rachel had blocked at Pinnacle. The salary offer was impressive, but the conversation revealed something even more satisfying. The recruiter mentioned that Rachel Martinez had interviewed for a similar position at their client company but was rejected after reference checks revealed concerns about her judgment and client management capabilities. Chen Strategic Solutions now employed 12 people and operated from a space 3 times larger than Rachel's old department at Pinnacle. Our client retention rate was perfect, our profit margins exceeded industry standards, and our reputation for delivering exceptional results had created a competitive advantage that traditional agencies struggled to match. The business Rachel had tried to prevent me from building was now more successful than anything she'd ever managed. Industry conferences had become interesting experiences where former colleagues approached me with a mixture of admiration and curiosity about the transition from employee to entrepreneur. The questions were always similar. How had I planned the career change? What advice would I give to other professionals considering independence? How had I built such strong client relationships so quickly? The answers were straightforward. Pay attention to warning signs in your professional environment. Document everything that seems questionable. Build relationships based on competence rather than politics. Understand your market value and contractual protections. Most importantly, never let someone else's insecurity limit your potential for success. Rachel had fired me believing she was eliminating competition for advancement opportunities. Instead, she'd pushed me toward creating something far better than any corporate promotion could have offered. Her attempt to sabotage my career had inadvertently launched the most successful period of my professional life. The business cards still made me smile every time I handed them out. Sarah Chen, founder and CEO, represented more than a title change. It symbolized the transformation from someone who accepted workplace limitations to someone who created her own opportunities. Rachel's worst decision had become my greatest catalyst for success. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.